Welcome to another program of Focus on Health. The goal of this program is to give you enough health-related information that you can choose a healthy lifestyle or, if called upon, make informed healthcare decisions. You've heard that Star Trek thing, you're going to go where no man has gone before. Well, we're going to go where this program has never gone before to talk about the endocrine system. I have Dr. Alvarez with me. You're going to see him in a little minute. We'll be back in about 30 seconds. When we come back, we're going to come back again. Welcome back to Focus on Health. I have Dr. Alvarez here. Dr. Alvarez, we have never done the endocrine system. You're going to be the kickoff. You're going to be the quarterback for this here. I want you to look into that camera and tell our viewing audience something about yourself.
Hello, Columbus. Good morning. My name is Alvarez. I'm an endocrinologist. I'm here in Columbus, and I have been here for about 7 years. And we have been trying to serve the community in many ways. And we are located close to the medical center at the 1005 Talbotton Road. And it's close to the Center Pharmacy, which is famous. I've been there for years.
Yes,
so
right.
There's no way you can get lost of that one. And we are soon going to open a satellite in the City of Americas, where we are going to serve the underserved community that is in great need of help down there. So we'll be at the Phoebe Saunders Hospital in a very convenient location.
And that's a good thing. Now, how long have you been a practicing physician at your location?
Well, at this location very recently, because we've moved from the old location. We used to be closer to Doctor's Hospital, which is actually right there, but then we recently in April moved to the new location at the Talbotton Road. So we have a more spacious area, and we have more convenient location for the public.
And I'm glad that you're having a satellite office in Americas, because as you very well know, out there in the counties, there's hardly no specialty care at all. So I'm really glad that you're going to have a satellite. And when is that going to be now?
On the 25th, this next week, we will be there for the first time.
Good.
Taking care of this underserved community and the county surrounding.
Good.
And covering different cities, including Cordele, Leesburg, and Buena Vista, and other areas there. And I think it would be a way to serve the people who hardly can have the opportunity to get the service they deserve.
Exactly right. Now, I've just got finished mentioning we're going into uncharted waters. The endocrine system is a vast system. And so I just want Dr. Alvarez just to, what we have here in presentation is just a slight touch, just a little taste of the endocrine system. So I want him to just elaborate a little bit of what we're going to be seeing in our slideshow.
Yeah, the endocrine system is a very specific and a very special system for the following reasons. This is a unique way of communication. This is my understanding, which is a simple way to understand the endocrine system. It's a communication system between cells. In the body.
Yes.
It's the wireless system we have in the body.
That's right.
We don't need cables to communicate from one part to the other. So it's so modern, and at the same time, the oldest system of communication between cells in the history.
Right.
Because that's the first way to communicate one cell to another. So it's the first one, and continue being the predominant and the strongest system. So as the cellular works, in seconds, you can have response in a distant places without any cables. So that's why it's so important.
That's an easy way to explain it.
Right, through the hormones, and hormones are the communicating agents going to these different places. But the effect is as potent as any potency can be. So the effects and benefits or illness can be strong with this kind of hormone. So that's important to know about the endocrine system.
Very easy way to explain it. I never thought about it that way, but you're right. That's the first wireless system.
Exactly.
First wireless system. So let's hit the round running with your first slide.
Yes. Well, in our first slide, we only have our introductory information. We are talking about the endocrine system.
Go to the second slide if we can.
And the second slide is showing us something about the orchestra director, we call it, the pituitary gland. It's the one telling which music is going to be played at what time and for how long.
That's exactly right.
That's what is going to happen. And this pituitary gland, which is a small gland located almost behind our nose, is producing a lot of agents, hormones, that are in charge of directing the different organs that are going to produce another effect in multiple organs as well.
Right.
So it is like a chain in command. So this gland has multiple hormones in charge of the adrenal glands, in charge of the pituitary gland, in charge of the reproductive system, in charge of all the pregnancy and the baby,
right,
and in charge of any the growth of the person. So
well, let's talk about some of them. And didn't at one time, didn't they used to call this, I think when I went to nursing school, they used to call it the master gland or something.
The master gland.
They call it the master. They still do that?
The master gland,
And let's talk about some of the things that the pituitary does. Like,
yes,
let's mention, we're looking up here, and we see growth hormones. Speak a little bit about growth hormone, prolactin, luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone.
Right.
Thyroid stimulating hormone.
The growth hormone, we had the impression in the past that the growth is only done at the beginning of life, that we needed to grow in the baby's, in the womb of the mother, and at the same time after that, during a period of time of 15, 16 years. But it is true that it's necessary for growth, but it's actually necessary even when we have already reached the
sure,
complete growth.
Sure.
Because the growth hormone has been discovered to be so important in the functioning that it can make the person without energy, can affect the fat content,
right,
can affect the energy, can affect the thinking, the aging process, the bone density. It can affect many systems and all over. So it's so important that we need to make sure that we have the normal levels.
Right, and when they see that growth hormone, they realize that growth hormone is really important as far as cell division, as far as protein synthesis for muscles.
Correct.
And things that are just necessary for normal health, growth, and sustainment of life. Right?
Exactly, and many people do not have enough, and they don't know it.
That's
and
exactly
they develop
right,
obesity, high blood pressure, the tiredness, this dysfunction, osteoporosis, and then the bones become brittle, the muscles are very weak,
right,
many things, and they don't know why, unless we investigate that and discover. We need to think ahead.
Let's look at some of the other things. You have prolactin. Just touch base on that.
Prolactin is a hormone that is the only hormone in the system that is in continuous suppression. So it's the opposite of the other hormone that's
yes,
in continuous stimulation. This is in suppression because it only works when the lady is pregnant.
Right, exactly
so it's
right.
going to start working. And so it's not supposed to be working too much during the life, unless there is a special occasion, like when we eat, prolactin goes. When we sleep, prolactin goes higher. So, but these are physiologic things.
Right.
But the necessity is when the lady is pregnant to sustain the pregnancy and making sure everything's working properly.
We're going to touch on one more of the pituitary hormones. That's thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH.
The TSH, very famous because everybody, when they're a little bit chunky, they say, oh, my thyroid is not working. So it's
right,
important to talk about TSH. TSH is part of the thyroid panel, included the TSH, the free T4, free T3, the total T3, total T4. This is a panel that we send, but the most important is the TSH, which tells us where are we in relation to the production of hormones.
That's exactly right.
So tell us that like a parameter. The TSH is produced by the pituitary gland, but it still is stimulated by a higher level in the hypothalamus. So it's called TRH. So
in fact, what we can do, we go to the next slide, you're talking about the hypothalamus right there. And it'll come up in it. There we go.
Yeah. We are talking about the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus is the one telling the thyroid gland how is necessary to be the production, especially because, as we mentioned before this, the presentation, we were talking with Mr. Barnes about the influence of emotions, influence of thinking, influence of situations, circumstances. And those circumstances surrounding the body act as a stimulus to the brain. The brain needs to analyze the situation and then send signals to the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus sends signals to the thyroid gland. Thyroid gland produces a TSH and stimulates the thyroid to produce thyroid hormone.
Bingo.
So it's like a chain.
Right.
But we need to begin somewhere. And we begin by the brain.
The brain, the head.
The thinking, the emotion, the processes, the problems, all these things influence thyroid production.
Okay, if we can talk about some of the things when there's a dysregulation. So let's talk about hyperthyroidism.
Hyperthyroidism is a very important entity because the hyperthyroidism is sometimes misunderstood because the people have the impression that when they have hyperthyroidism, they are supposed to be thin. They are supposed to be losing weight, and sometimes it's the opposite.
That's
so
exactly
you cannot say if a person has hyper or hypo just by the weight or the appetite, because both ways you can be gaining weight or losing weight, depending on the circumstances. So it's not necessarily one parameter. But the hyperthyroidism is important to discover because it's capable of affecting the system. I believe that the gland is comparable to a thermostat that we have in the house.
Exactly.
So it's moving up or down. If we move the thermostat higher, the temperature will be high, and the heat will be produced. And that's exactly what happened. If we put the thyroid to overwork, or the point by itself is overworking, some of this energy is not utilized for the usual normal function, and is used as a wasted energy and released as heat. So these people who has hyperthyroidism has like increasing temperature, but the temperature is not useful. So they are weak and tired, but they have a lot of production of energy, but it's going wasted out.
Heart racing.
Or the heart increases the rate, the rhythms, and on top of that, the bones become brittle because the calcium is removed from the bones.
Right.
So we have several things we need to pay attention to hyperthyroidism.
And normally that's caused by what, overproduction of
overproduction.
T4?
It can be, it's an
T4.
overproduction of generalized hormonal production, the T4, T3, free, and the free part is the important one.
Let's talk about the opposite of that then, of hypothyroidism, which is the next slide.
Yeah, the next slide, when we have the hypothyroidism, what happens is that you become the opposite. The thermostat goes down. The thermostat goes down, and then what happens is the energy production goes down. Energy, we don't feel like even waking up in the morning. We start, in a sense, eating less. The metabolism will go down. So you feel that the stomach doesn't move. They may develop constipation. They may develop increase in the weight sometimes, and also some other alteration in the reproductive system too.
Looking at some of the things, you says hypoventilation, bradycardia, ileus, where you get the
breathing,
constipation and
constipation,
all that.
the
Urinary
heart
retention.
rate is lower, and the breathing is kind of slower in a sense that this doesn't have the effectivity that it could have if we had the complete normal function.
Now let's talk, Doctor, about something that everyone knows, and many of our viewing audience might not know about hyperthyroidism or hyper, but they do know about diabetes.
Diabetes. The diabetes is so common that sometimes we don't discover.
That's it.
And we don't discover it because we confuse the symptoms. And this is very common in the people. The people think, I'm urinating because I'm drinking too much. I am hungry all the time because I'm working too much.
Exactly right.
And I am kind of urinating at night because I have been drinking beer all night.
Right.
So there's many reasons, many excuses. So we never pay attention. We don't tell the doctors. So the doctor doesn't know, we cannot approach it. Right. So it's important to recognize the symptoms of the diabetes.
And that's why it's very important. I tell a lot of people, this is the age of specialization. And so when you feel that that you have a certain chronic illness or illness, you need to go, and you've been diagnosed, then you need to go to a specialist. And we're going to take a break in a minute, and we're going to come right back right at the other end of this commercial. Okay.
I was afraid of that.
Well, guess it's time to get you fixed.
Your pets will start fooling around sooner than you think.
Go on, get out of here!
Accidental litters lead to millions killed in shelters each year. Help prevent more. Fix at month.
Bicycles are fun at any age. Just remember the rules of the road when you're out enjoying a bike ride. And motorists, when you're sharing the road with cyclists, use caution and give at least 3 feet when passing. Bicycles are safe, fun, and sensible. When you ride, be visible, be predictable, and be alert. You'll have a safe ride and a great time. Let's get there together, Georgia. A message from the Governor's Office of Highway Safety and Georgia Bikes.
Welcome back to Focus on Health. I have Dr. Alvarez. And Dr. Alvarez, before I'll talk a real funny story, just look into the camera because I would like for them to know how to get in touch with you and also talk about the opening of the Office in Americas again, right there at that camera.
Okay, well, my office, as we mentioned before, is located in Talbotton Road. It's 1005, Suite B. And the telephone number is 706-507-7067. That's the main number, and we are available most of the time. When I'm on call, it's all the time. So it's easy to reach us. We have a multiple emails. We can have also availability through a portal. We have a portal, which is a technological design system, which you can go and get in there and get your own information. We are working also in the development of kiosks so they can check in automatically.
Oh, great.
We are working on the other ways of communicate with us. We already implemented the email system, and we have a new design in our website, which we just launched 2 days ago, and it's capable of having a vault. The vault is a place in the website where you can store your own medical information, your medical, all your doctors, all the medications, all the prescriptions, all the appointments you have, whatever information you may forget when you see a doc, you can go in there and pull it in from my website. Then you have everything you need. You don't have to remember things. You have it right there.
Oh my gosh, boy, I'm telling you, Bruce, Dr. Alvarez is high speed here, Bruce, huh? I mean, he's got all this, he makes it easy.
All the gizmos.
Yeah, he's got all the gizmos.
Right.
And you're opening up the Americas?
Yes, in America. We are going to start working there at the Phoebe Center Hospital. It's a modern hospital, very sophisticated in a sense that we have all the resources.
Good.
And also being appointed as attending there. The courtesy attending a member of the staff. So we can admit patients if it's necessary and serve that community that really needs service and attention.
And they do need things out there
right.
in the county. This is a really funny story. I went to a senior's home just to check on her. And when I go to a home and I check the blood sugar, I check everybody in the home. I'm there. So there was this, her grandson came. He looked like he could have been on the cover of Men's Health, Mr. Adonis. He had muscles on top of muscles. And so I said, let me check your blood sugar. He said, I'm fine. Checked his blood sugar, and it was 300 something.
Wow.
Now, I asked him a question. You were talking about symptoms, and we're going to talk about it.
Right.
And I said, let me ask you a question. Are you drinking a lot? Oh, yeah. Are you urinating a lot? Yeah, but I'm drinking a lot.
Exactly.
Polyuria, polydipsia.
45, yeah.
Yeah, and
You eat too
polyphagia,
much.
eating too much.
Right.
He didn't even know it. So I asked him, when's the last time he had eaten? He told me, and I was at the house in the afternoon. He said that morning. I came back an hour later. It was still high. I sent him right to the hospital.
Correct.
So you can't go, as you mentioned before, by body look. You can't go by that.
No.
It's impossible. So let's talk about some of the symptoms.
Right.
So our viewing audience will know. And that's one of the topics down the line, because in September we're going to be talking about the adrenal glands.
Okay.
But we're going to be talking about the pancreas and all that down the line. But let's talk about some of the symptoms of diabetes.
Okay. Well, diabetes symptoms are sometimes difficult to recognize, especially because sometimes are vague. They are not very clearly
That's
demarcated.
exactly right.
And the first thing the patient may have sometimes is tiredness, weak. They have blurred vision. They have sometimes feel anxious because before you actually develop full diabetes, sometimes the pancreas start acting up and producing too much.
Right.
Before it bursts out, it's like a big burst.
Yes, you get the anxious.
And then the glucose goes down.
Right.
And then they become sweaty and shaky, and then they become tired and they're hungry all the time. But then they feel that this part of their life, maybe their work, they're stressed, whatever they are doing, and so we always put the blame in something else. We not always think that we may have a sickness or disease.
Right.
And then when the diabetes is established completely, and then we have all these classical that you mentioned, the urination, especially at night. That's a very important characteristic. During the day, you can urinate and drink, but during the night, you're not supposed to urinate too much. And if you at night start urinating more than 2 times, you need to think that something is not right.
Bingo.
Yeah, at night is the key.
That's
because
right.
then you're asleep, you don't think. You just wake up and go to the bathroom. That's one part. And the appetite increases, so you're hungry all the time. And and the opposite occurs. When you eat a lot, you expect to gain weight. But in this case, you don't gain weight, you lose weight.
That's exactly
So
right. That's
it's the opposite thing that
right.
you expect. So
That's exactly
that's the trick
right.
there. We need
That's
to discover that
exactly
kind of
right.
characteristic.
Because like you said, Dr. Alvarez, sometimes these symptoms are masked.
Correct.
Now, we're talking about in line with diabetes, if we can go to the next slide.
Yes.
Talk about care of the feet. You have that, and that's a very good thing, because I'm always telling the diabetic patient, don't walk around the house even without having slippers on.
Correct. This is one of the characteristics, and it's called secondary to neuropathy.
Right.
As you can see the ulcer in that slide, it means that in that area, the body is receiving the major pressure. And so it's producing the ulcer, and the ulcer may develop in a very infectious area, and then it may evolve in osteomyelitis, which is an infection of the bone, and then
Right.
we need to amputate. This
Right.
is terrible, so we need to be careful with the feet. The feet are very important in diabetics. They need to check them out every day, make sure they are clean and dry, and then protecting in very, very good, comfortable shoes.
Right.
That's one of the complications, but we have some other complications. Even maybe a little bit serious in a sense that they can, in a short period of time, maybe kill you if you don't do something about it.
Of course.
You need to discover those things on time. So for example, we can have what is called the macro complication, microangiopathy or macroangiopathy.
Right.
One of the macro is, for example, a heart attack, because the big artery may be clogged, and we can have a stroke. That's
Right.
another one. We have the micro when we have damage in the eyes.
Yes.
And we can have damage in the kidneys.
Right.
So both of them are microvascular disease.
Right.
Because of the diabetes is destroying the endothelium, the part inside of the vessel, and the vessel tends to clog and close, and the blood doesn't circulate any longer, and the organ starts suffering.
Right.
So that's the microangiopathy that we know. And then also affect the nerves. So that's
Yes,
why you lose
that's right,
sensation
that's
in
why
the
you
hands
lose
and
the sen-
feet, and
that's
lose
exactly
sensation in the
right,
feet.
that's exactly
so
right.
that's those are the other complications that we have,
Complications of it.
of course we can get blindness,
Right.
and the most important, the kidneys develop into dialysis eventually if we don't do something about it.
And that's what I tell people. Diabetes affects every system in the body, from the eyes to the kidneys.
That is correct.
But with education, medication, nutrition, proper medical care, you can live a normal life.
Exactly. That's what I tell my patients. Don't get depressed because you develop diabetes.
That's right.
If we treat it correctly, you can live 100 years. That's not a problem. So
Let's, and we're here from Mike, who can talk dry mouth. He knows. That's an inside joke, but the producer here he needs to get his degree in medicine when it comes to diabetes.
I sign it.
We need to confer it on him.
Absolutely.
Let's skip over the next slide that says obesity, but go to the adrenal. So let's hit the adrenal.
Let's see if I this one.
Yeah, it'll come up. Here, bring it up.
Which one?
Now, I think that
That's the one.
This is the one here.
Yeah, adrenal.
Let's talk about the adrenal glands now.
Adrenal gland. Well, the interesting thing about the adrenal gland is that some people don't even know where it's located.
That's exactly right.
And they don't know what is it and where is it and what they do. The adrenal glands are part of the central nervous system in a sense that they come from different origin.
Right.
They're not normally going there from the location, the local areas. They come from other central nervous system and go stationary on top of the kidneys.
Right.
So it's like a little cap, a little hat in there on top of the kidneys, and they have the very important mission. They are able to produce important hormones that make a big difference in the whole body. And we have the main production of the hormones of what is hormone called aldosterone,
Yes.
which is producing the upper and the most external cover of the gland, and its glomerulosa area, and it produces aldosterone. Aldosterone is in charge of retaining sodium. So retaining sodium, excrete potassium, and control blood pressure. So it's very important in that area. So it is high whenever you are dehydrated. So you tend to retain water, so it works in that sense. That's why many medications oriented to treat blood pressure is oriented to control aldosterone.
Right.
So it controls the blood pressure. That's one of the hormones. Then we have the cortisol.
Right.
Cortisol is so important that it's involved in many areas, including obesity, hypertension, high cholesterol, diabetes is involved in many areas because the system is responding to external mental, emotional stimuli.
It's stimuli, that's
And
exactly
it's
right.
going to the adrenal gland, produces cortisol, and the cortisol produces this reaction to act in an emergencies, like a flight or fight.
Or fight syndrome.
Right. So you need to have that one unless, if you don't have it, you may collapse. So it's important to have it.
And that's why in September, on the schedule, I would like for you to just speak about the adrenal glands and, and their functioning.
It would be
Because
my
because
pleasure.
the adrenal glands do cover so much. You mentioned, I mean, it regulates so many metabolic functions.
Exactly.
And so we're
There's
gonna-
some other hormones that we didn't mention, but these are androgens. It
That's
produces,
exactly right.
Other important hormones that are necessary. That's where we produce all the rest of the steroids hormones that we know.
Right. Now let's go to the next slide. You
Yes.
mentioned osteoporosis. So if you could just
Osteoporosis. I
explain
mentioned
that
there.
slide.
I put this slide there because I wanted you to know that sometimes we feel that the bones are just like stick of woods, that they are not alive.
Right.
But they are pretty much alive. And they are changing constantly, and they are remodeling constantly. So the bones, in order to make us grow, they need to change and increase in the size and volume and density. So we don't have the same bones we had when we were 5.
That's exactly
It's
right.
Different kind of bones.
And
now.
I can attest to that.
Yeah, that's right. And the bones are continually evolving, changing, so modeling, destroying, and construction, destruction
Exactly
and
right.
construction. So when that stops, or for some reason interferes, then the bones become very stiff and they can break. And
Yes.
if they break, then we have a fracture. And so we need to be aware of that, especially in the ladies, which is more common, and the men can have that too. But we need to prevent them because the osteoporosis leads to the biggest major fractures, which are the hip fractures.
And that is exactly right. And I'm glad that you mentioned, you're the first one to mention this here, but people think that bones are static, but they're not. Let me think, osteoclasts, I think they themselves that break the
Osteoclasts.
bone down, and then you have the
Correct.
other cells that regenerate bone cells, osteoclasts. So
Osteoblasts,
so it's
yeah.
a continual process going on. I'm really glad.
Right.
And that right there, doctor, that's why I try to tell my viewing audience this endocrine system is just so vast that it just covers so much. That's a topic in and of itself.
Absolutely.
But let's go to the next slide, which is calcium.
Yeah, and since we're talking about the bones, we are talking about calcium because the bones are
put that slide
made
up there.
almost
There we go. There we go.
60 to 80% is calcium. It's a lot of density there. We have a combination of minerals with soft tissue. So they need to have in the right proportion in order to have a strong bone.
Exactly right.
So that's what happened. And in order to have a strong bone, we need certain things. We need the minerals, which is calcium and phosphorus, magnesium. All these minerals contribute to the strength of the bone. But at the same time, we need to have the action of other hormones that needs to that influence the bone itself, like the parathyroid gland, which is located. The parathyroid glands are located in the back of the thyroid. So they are in charge of removing calcium from different sources to keep the calcium flow continuous to the bone, so the bones can be refeeding itself and survive. So the calcium itself is so important that it has to do with everything, including the heart pumping action, the muscle contraction has to do with the calcium. The vessels contract because of the calcium action.
And, and your slide is interesting because what it does, it shows the importance of a number of factors. First of all, sunlight.
The sunlight.
Interacting with the skin, vitamin D. And,
Correct.
and the way you have this slide is very, very, very interesting because you even have
Parathyroid
hormone involved in it.
Exactly.
Which secretes. So it's a process.
It's a process.
Continuing process.
Correct. Parathyroid goes to the kidneys and makes the kidney absorb calcium.
That's exactly
and produce
right.
vitamin D.
That's it.
3. So parathyroid stimulates the production of the active form of the vitamin D and then goes to the intestine to absorb calcium. So that way we have another source of calcium coming from what we eat.
That's
So
exactly
it's going
right.
there. And then some other part from the bones, and so we make sure that we have all this metabolism running. As a team, works as a team.
It's a team.
Right.
And your last slide pretty much sums up what endocrinology is is concerned with the study of the biosynthesis, storage, chemistry, physiological function of hormones, and pathology with the cells of the endocrine glands and the tissues that secrete them.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, what this is saying is that it's a complex process involved in each and every gland in the endocrine system.
Exactly, and I believe that every organ in the body is an endocrine organ. Even the heart is an endocrine organ. It produces substances that are capable of retaining water. So we have the brain, for example, produces hormones in between cell and cell. The communication between a cell and a cell is not by a cable, it's by substances going to the other cell.
I'm going to remember that wireless.
So it's the synapses that we call it.
Right.
So it's actually hormones are all over the place. And every organ is an endocrine organ. The kidney is an endocrine organ. The stomach is an endocrine organ, producing gastrin and producing other hormones that are able to produce a stimulation of chlorhydric acid in the stomach. So the intestine produces hormones. So there are so many organs producing hormones that I would say that the endocrine system dominates.
You said dominates the whole body.
Dominates the whole body.
And this is coming from an endocrinologist, y'all, so you know.
Of course, it's of course biased, but I will say that there are certain bases somewhere there.
I'm really glad, Dr. Alvarez, that you came in. Would you look again and let our viewing audience know how they can contact you in your office? That's the address, the phone number. Tell them again about Americas.
Yes, well, we are located at Talbotton Road, 1005, Suite B. Our telephone number is 706-507-7067. We have our website, which is was in the last slide, is www.inamedcare.com. And if you go there, you can see all the locations, telephones, accessibility, emails, website, portal, Bolt, and everything. So you will have a lot of fun in there. But the other news is that we are going to open a satellite in the city of Americas, and it's located an hour, 15 minutes from here. But some people have the need of this kind of services there because they live far away. They don't have the ways to transport themselves to Columbus. And the nearest endocrinology, a good one, is in Albany. So they need to be traveling if they want to have the service. And sometimes it's so many patients that the endocrinologists available don't have enough space for them anytime
Exactly
soon.
right, exactly right.
It can be spaced too long. So we are there to try to serve.
Right.
And that's our mission.
And we're going to have Dr. Alvarez back hopefully in September. Now, we covered a lot of territory. It may have seemed that it was vast, and it is. And that's why we're going to break it down. We're going to compartmentalize the system, and we're going to do the adrenal glands and their functioning and all the hormones involved and the cortisol and all the androgens and whatever that's involved in that. And that's going to be the half-an-hour block on just that. Then we'll go to another gland and the pancreas for diabetes and all. So we're going to break it up. We covered a lot of territory because I just wanted you to have an overview. And so until next time, as I always say, always put your health first, take charge of your health. And right after the program, Dr. Alvarez and I are going to confer the degree of MD on Mike King, who knows about diabetes. God bless you, and see you next time on Focus on Health.
Mr. Barnes, thank you so much for it.